Hi everybody, it's Mariana with Three Peaks Classroom. If you're new here, I am a grade 3 teacher, I've been a grade 4 teacher, I've been a grade 3-4 teacher, I've been an online teacher, and I was a preschool teacher for a while too. But welcome to my channel. This is where I like to talk about all things with a Canadian context. Today I want to talk about planning and surviving your very first day of teaching. Now this episode is going to be a combination of my own personal experiences, plus I've also crowdsourced some tips and tricks from all of my followers, my beautiful followers who are out on Instagram. We have these weekly conversations, and last week I asked people to fill in some questions, answer some questions about what are your tips or tricks for the first day of school, what do you put on your desks, things like that. I crowdsourced the information for today's video. Diving into today's topic, we are going to be talking about your first day of school, and I'm going to break this video up into 3 different parts. And the first part is going to be planning and preparing for the very first day of school. The second part is going to be what does a first day of school actually feel like and some survival tips. And the third tip, or the third part of this video, is going to be what you should be doing immediately after the very first day of school has ended. So if you're looking for something a little bit more detailed on how I plan for my very first day of school, I have a video that I will link down below. I actually filmed it last year while I was in the classroom. I am on mat leave right now, so I am filming this out of the classroom. But I do have a video all about how I planned for my very first day of school. That includes the books that I read, or how I dealt with supplies, or the things that were waiting on my students' desks, or the get to know you activities that I prepared and planned for. That's all in great detail in that video, so I will link that down below. Planning for your first day, I'm assuming that your classroom is all set up, bulletin boards are looking fabulous, your books are all nicely lined up and will last maybe, half a day on your bookshelves. So I'm assuming everything is set up and ready to go. The very first thing you're going to want to plan or prepare for is what do you want to have ready on your students' desks when they first arrive in the classroom. There they are, they have their backpack full of school supplies, they have their lunch kit ready to go, their parents just gave them a kiss and a hug goodbye, and they walk into your class. What do you want to have waiting for them at their desks? What I've been doing in years previous is I would have a sharpened pencil ready to go. Usually it's like a funky pencil or something new and unique. I have that ready to go for them on their desks. I have an activity page, and what I've been doing is a drawing page all about my family, where they have to draw, and then there's a box of crayons for them as well. I usually get the Colors of the World box of crayons. I'll get them to use those. I also have a little snack that's waiting for them because, first day jitters, you never know who's feeling a little extra nervous and who didn't have a big breakfast or any breakfast at all. So I usually just leave a granola bar on their desk, and if they don't eat it then, that's okay. They can just pack it away for later, but I have those three things: a pencil, some sort of an activity for them to do, and a granola bar. You can also get a little bit fancy. You can have some stickers waiting for them or an eraser. I also crowdsourced this question out on Instagram, and so some of the replies that I got from my Instagram followers are Play-Doh. Play-Doh was a huge one. A cool activity that was mentioned a few times is also creating a word search that has all of the students' names already embedded inside. They're already hidden, so that's a fun little activity. Coloring pages, like what I do, a blank name tag. Some of them have blank name tags waiting on their desks. A cute little snack in a little bitty, cute container or something with a cute little saying. Or like fun little gifts, like bubbles, like I'm bubbling with excitement to meet you, or something like that. Those are some of the ideas that were given to me on things that they have waiting on their desks when they arrive in your classroom. That's all fine and dandy. You have that stuff ready on your students' desks when they arrive. But here is a survival tip for you for that activity. Make sure that you always prepare 2 extra sets. And I know that sounds, like standard practice, but you wouldn't believe how many times I've had students join my classroom and they weren't on my roster. So having those 2 extra sets of everything that I have on their desk made it so easy. I could just grab it and I could give it to the student while I dealt with adding them to my roster. If you want to go a little bit further, I actually prepare 5 extra sets for my classroom because I teach in a very transient neighborhood. I have lots of newcomer families that come to Canada. And so I'm not even joking. One time I had 2 brand new students join me on the very first day of school. And one year when I was preparing to go on mat leave, within the span of 4 weeks, I had 5 brand new students join me. So it's just common practice for me to have lots of extra sets of materials that I have ready for my students. I keep it all labeled in a tiny little bin, and it literally says the first day of school, so I can grab a pencil, granola bar, activity page, crayon box, and I don't have to worry about hunting all that stuff down. It's labeled in a container that says the first day of school. I did crowdsource this next question to my Instagram followers, and I asked them, what is one tip that you would tell every other teacher for the very first day of school? And almost 90% of you said over plan. Just make sure that you have extra activities to go just in case, because you never know. You never know what technology might not be working, or you never know how quickly students might be working at something, or you never know. You just never know what could happen in the day, and you always want to be over prepared. I'm speaking from experience because the very first year that I taught grade 3, I came up from preschool, I planned for a name tag activity to take about 30 minutes. Well, in grade 3, it did not take 30 minutes. I think it took 6 minutes. By the time all the kids said, yeah, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore. 6 minutes. I was not prepared for that. So learn from my mistake. Make sure that you are over prepared, over planned, have extra activities. I love to have extra books ready to go, extra icebreaker, get to know you activities. And really, truly, if all else fails, you can just take the kids to the park, assuming it's a nice day outside. If all else fails, get them outside. It is still the very first day of school, and they were just on summer holidays the day before. So take them outside if all else fails. When you are planning activities that you want to do with your students for the very first day of school, one tip that I have personally is just to limit the amount of school supplies that are going to be needed by students on that very first day of school. I limit myself to planning things that require only a pencil and only a box of crayons and one notebook. That's it. I don't expect students to have all of their school supplies with them. I hope that they have all their school supplies, but I don't expect it. And so for the very first day of school, either plan to make sure that you don't use a lot of school supplies, or be prepared to provide the school supplies that you need the students to have on that very, very first day of school. In my planning for the very first day of school video, you'll notice that I do incorporate a ton of movement activities, but I like to have movement activities that combine with getting to know you activities. So one of my favorite ones that I play with my students is Would You Rather, or like which one would you choose? And I would literally just label 2 sides of the classroom. I'll say like, would you rather have hot dogs for supper, or would you rather have pizza for supper? And the students literally have to just get up and walk across to that side of the room. It's easy to play because there's no materials that are required, but it literally gets the students up and walking, and they get to see, you know, who chooses what. And it's really fun to see, would any students stand alone? Are they influenced by their friends? So that's a fun little quick game that you can play. Moving along, while you are planning for the very first day of school, you are going to want to think about how to sort through all of the school supplies that the students are bringing along with them on their very first day of school. Again, you are going to have a range here. You are going to have students that bring too many school supplies, like things that weren't even on the list, and you're going to have students that don't bring anything, not even a lunch on the very first day of school. So just be prepared and think about, how do you want to handle school supplies? Now, from my personal experience, I've done this in many different ways. The very first year that I taught grade 3 and I had no clue what I was doing, I had a list on the board and I said, okay, everybody, put these things in your desk, and that's it. That's all I had. So I didn't know how to deal with extra school supplies, or I wasn't prepared for students not having school supplies. I had parents in my classroom longer than they should have been, so I don't recommend having just a straight up list on the whiteboard. I've also gone through the trouble of doing things one by one. So everybody take out your pencils. Okay, everybody, we're going to take all of our pencils and we're going to do this. I've done that as well, and it works. It works very well, but a word of caution, not everybody will have the school supply when you pull it out, and so they might just be sitting there like waiting. And it's especially hard for kids to see if they didn't bring any school supplies. It'll be hard for them to watch all of their friends sort and organize their school supplies, and they're just sitting there. Also, doing it one by one takes a very, very long time. Like, I think it took over an hour of your day to sort through all those school supplies. So I don't recommend doing one by one, and I don't recommend leaving them all to the very last minute or doing it all yourself. I kind of recommend doing a little bit of a combo. So my recommendation is to start small and work your way to big. I start with a pencil case, and I have a slide that goes up, and I say, okay, everybody, in your pencil cases, make sure you have one pencil, one eraser, one Sharpie, one highlighter, one scissor, one glue stick. I know that's a lot, but I have a slide, and I have visuals that go on the slide as well, and I get everybody to fill in their pencil cases, and I let them know everything else just keep inside your backpack. Just make sure your pencil case is ready to go. And then we do that for about 5 minutes. And then I'll walk around and I'll notice who doesn't have school supplies, and I will make a note and say, oh, Johnny doesn't have this, or Anna doesn't have that, and I will write that down, because then at recess time I will go to the extra supplies and I will grab some for those students so that I have something for them on that very first day of school. After I do the pencil case, then I move on to what goes in their desks, because I have desks in my classroom. You might have little buckets because kids sit at tables, whatever works for you. So then we talk about what goes in our desks. Then we talk about what goes in our cubbies. I have a cubby system in my classroom. I talk about that in my planning for the first day of school video as well. So things that we use regularly but not daily. So like, markers or, paints, things like that. That will go inside their cubbies. And then everything else that's extra, duplicates of things, I have a giant Ziploc bag that I buy from Dollarama, the dollar store, and everybody has a number in my classroom. All of those extra supplies, they just get put inside of that giant Ziploc bag, and then that Ziploc bag gets put up and out of reach in storage, so that on the off chance that so-and-so needs a brand new eraser or they need a brand new do-it-ting, I can just take that Ziploc bag down, but it's out of reach and they can't mess up all of those school supplies. It also works because at the end of the year, anything that they didn't use, I just give them their Ziploc bag and they take it home. So I did crowdsource that specific topic as well. How do you deal with school supplies? And I found that the answers vary depending on what grade you teach. So kindergarten teachers, I hear you. You guys collect all of the supplies and you guys sort them yourselves. That's generally the consensus that I got. Grades 1, maybe 2, you guys do it very explicitly. You guys maybe will leave it for the next day and then you do it slowly throughout the week. Or you take out just a few little essential items and then you deal with the rest of it. And then like teachers like me, grades 3 and 4, usually, we go slide by slide and we go, like I said, you start small with a pencil case and you work your way up. And then I had some teachers reply in grades 5 and 6 where they said they have a slide on the board and the kids just walk around the classroom dropping off where they need to go. So it really depends on what grade you teach, but it also depends on your personal preference. I've tried many different methods, and like I said, the one that works for me is starting small with a slide with visuals and then building your way up. I limit myself, by the way, to 1 hour. I do not like to go longer than an hour for school supply sorting. If it's taking that long, it needs to be cut. You are wasting precious time getting to know your students. So 1 hour is my cut. A few more things to think about while you're planning and preparing for the very first day of school. How do you want to have your students come in and find their seats? Do you want them to pick their own spots, or do you want to have assigned seats? You want to think about that ahead of time. You also want to make sure that you have a list of procedures that you need to cover on the very, very first day of school, and keep that list displayed somewhere. I made a big checklist and I put it up on the whiteboard, and every time we did something, I check marked it off. It's good for those students that are feeling a little bit anxious because they see some progress happening throughout the day, but it's also good for you because then you remember, oh, I forgot to talk about how we push in our chairs, which is an important procedure for kids to learn. You're going to want to learn from my mistake on this one and make sure that your teacher name is displayed somewhere in your class so that the students can easily read it and reference it. You probably introduced yourself once at the beginning of the class, or some students might already know who you are, but not everybody will know who you are, and not everybody will remember your name, especially those like first day jitters. They're going to forget your name. So display your name somewhere, touch it often, point to it often so students can start to develop and remember your name. I had a student 20 minutes into the first day of school say, "Teacher, what's your name again?" And that was a complete blooper on my end. I completely forgot to talk about my name and to have my name referenced somewhere. So learn from my mistake, have your name referenced somewhere. My last tip for you for planning and preparing for the very first day of school is to make sure that you have an overabundance of copies that you need to send home on that very first day. Because again, you can just put it into your first day of school bin. So any new students that come in, you can easily give them these copies. I like to send 2 papers home. One is a letter of introduction about me. I like to send a paper copy home. Digital's fantastic. I probably have a digital version somewhere, but a paper copy is fantastic because it actually gives the parents something immediately that day, and you know that you don't have to worry about issues of internet access or who's checking their email, who's checking the website, did anybody do that night. Paper copy is fantastic. But I also send home a student information page, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the very first day of school in the next part. All right, let's move into part 2, the actual very first day of school. What can you expect? If you are a brand new teacher and you have no idea what to expect, let me tell you, it's a lot of butterflies. My heart hits the highest heart rate it will ever hit 2 minutes before that school bell rings on the very first day of school. I get sweaty, I get flustered, and I've been teaching for 12 years, you guys, and I still get nervous on the very first day of school. It's totally normal. It's a good feeling, actually. It means that your body is revving up to do something exciting, right? Or fearful. But either way, there's a lot of butterflies on that very first day of school for you and also for your students, so just remember that. Here are some things that you might expect on the very first day of school. I don't want to scare you, I don't want to alarm you, but it's good to be prepared. You're probably going to have a parent either come into your classroom or call you, or you might have an admin come in or something, literally moments before the students arrive into your classroom. One year I had a parent come in, she had like special permission because her child had special needs, and so she wanted to come in and meet me, and that was fabulous. I'm so glad that she took that opportunity, but she really wanted to chat and like really get to know me 2 minutes before the school bell rang. And so I was very polite, but I was very direct with her as well. I said, oh, so-and-so, it's so great to meet you. I look forward to getting to know you and your child and your family. I look forward to it. I would love to chat with you after school when I have a bit more time. I was very direct with her, but I was very polite with her as well. So just be prepared. You might have a parent come in, call you, or pull you aside and say, oh, can you take a picture of so-and-so? That's great. You can do that. Just be polite and be direct. I mentioned before, when you are preparing for the first day of school, don't be surprised if you have a student or 2 extra students join you on that very first day. Sometimes rosters are not finalized. Sometimes students have been added to the roster during the summer holidays or something. So just expect that you probably will have 1 new student join your classroom. Just make them feel welcome, like they were always supposed to be there. And that's where it's handy to have those extra materials. I actually go a step further because of my neighborhood and I know where I teach. I always have an extra desk and chair in my classroom. And if I don't need it, I don't need it. No big deal. But nothing is worse than having a student walk in and you have no extra materials for them and you have no seat for them. That is a surefire way to make them feel unwelcomed. So always have those extra materials and just expect that you might have an extra student walk in. Here's a survival tip for the very first day of school as a teacher. Set an alarm on your phone once an hour to ring to remind you to drink water. I know that seems very basic and mundane, but it's so important because there have been many years where I've gone the entire first day of school and I sit down and I realize, wow, the only water that I had was at lunchtime. Because, during first recess, I was going to grab copies here, and during this break, I was doing that or whatever. And really, the only moment I had to sit down or to drink water was at lunchtime. So just set an alarm on your phone. It'll go off. It might interrupt a lesson that you're doing, but drinking water and keeping yourself hydrated is a little bit more important than going over the procedure on, how to push in your chairs. Maybe not more important than asking to go to the bathroom. That's a really important procedure. So maybe finish that lesson and then drink your water. On the very first day of school, you're also going to want to make sure that you've included an art activity of some kind. Now, nothing paint related or anything. I like to keep it simple. You could even do digital, really. But I like to plan an art activity for my students because it gives me an opportunity to walk around and really get to know my students. My goal is during that art activity, I want to meet with every single student. I want to see what they're working on, and I want to ask them, do they have any pets at home? Or what kind of video game or TV show do they like to watch? Because I feel like those are kind of 2 safe topics. You can always ask students about their family and things, but I feel like that might get into a touchy subject. Pets, I feel like, are a safe bet, or what is your favorite animal? I feel like those are a safe conversation, but also like, what is your favorite TV show? I also stay away from like, oh, tell me something exciting that you did in the summer, because they might have had something traumatic happen to them during the summertime. So again, I keep it to tell me about your pet or your favorite animal, or tell me about your favorite video game or TV show. And I try to make it so that I go to all of my students in the classroom so that they can talk to me, and I've had at least one positive face-to-face interaction with each one of my students. So what do you expect on the first day of school? That should be an expectation. You expect to get to know your students on more than just a name basis. You want to really establish that relationship, or you want to start to establish that relationship on the very first day of school. Another important tip that you want to remember for the very first day of school is be explicit in every single thing that you teach, especially your procedures. You want chairs pushed in? How? Demonstrate. How do you want chairs pushed in? Once you establish those habits now, you can practice them, and then eventually you're not going to have to worry about them throughout the year. A survival tip for the very first day of school that I have yet to learn, actually, is to bring a second set of clothes. Let's have a little story time, shall we? I've had a student vomit all over me on the very first day of school because they were so nervous about going to school. Granted, it was in preschool, so this was their first time leaving the comforts of the bosom of their wonderful family. But I had a student who said goodbye to their family and was so worked up, was crying so much that he literally vomited all over me. So my survival tip is just throw an extra pair of clothes in a bag and keep them in your car or something, because you're going to be grateful in case there's an accident. I also had a student vomit all over my shoes on picture day. Luckily, it was my shoes though, so that wasn't in the picture, but I still didn't have a second set of shoes. So I still have to learn this lesson, but yes, a survival tip is to bring an extra set of clothes and shoes for the very first day of school. And part 3, what should you do after the very first day of school? And no, I don't mean go ahead and make the copies and get ready for the next day. I mean, that's granted, that's your job. What should you do immediately after you've met all of your students and you've sent them home? The one thing that you should do, or that you should plan to do, is to call some of your students. I don't mean all of your students. If you want to call all your students, go ahead. That's going to be a big chunk of time. I don't have that much time to devote to that, but I do recommend that you make a list of 4 or 5 kiddos that you think could really benefit from a phone call from the teacher. I tried this my very first year of grade 3, and I am not going to go back. I love doing it. It's actually a part of my day that I really look forward to. I got a heads up from the teachers previous that these 5 kiddos in my class were labeled like behavior kids, or they just had a lot of issues, and they were often labeled. And so I wrote those names down, and after the very first day of school, I waited a couple hours. I waited till it was like 5 o'clock, but I would call that student's home, and I would ask to speak to the child. Most often, the parents, they see the phone, they see who's calling, the school is calling, and they'll go, okay, what did my kid do on the first day of school? But I can't tell you the joy it brought me to hear their voice saying, oh, you want to talk to Johnny? Oh, okay, yeah. And then I'll talk to Johnny, and they'll hear me say, like, how was your first day of school, bud? How did it go for you? I was pretty nervous. Were you really nervous? Yeah. What do you think? Like, what would you like to do tomorrow? Oh, yeah, we can see if we can do that. I'm kind of thinking we should go to the park. Do you think that would be a great idea? Awesome. Okay, well, I'm really excited to see you tomorrow. It's just a wonderful way to build that relationship, especially with those students that maybe need a little bit more of that relationship with the teacher. So my recommendation is to pick 3, 5, however many students you're comfortable calling, and just call them and talk to them. How was their day? Is there anything I should know? Like, did I miss something? How did I do? They love having that special relationship. And if you get a voicemail, you get a voicemail, whatever. Leave a message and just say, hey, this is the teacher. This is Johnny's teacher. Just wanted to say, Johnny, it was so great to meet you in class today. I'm really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Hope you have a great day. Bye. Like, how often do the kids get to hear a message on their home phone from their teacher that's positive? So that's my recommendation for you for what you should do immediately after the very first day of school. So in a nutshell, those are my tips and things to expect for your very, very first day of school. If this is your first year teaching and it's your very first day of school, I wish you nothing but the best. Remember that they are there for the first time just like you are, and you guys are going through it together. So just build those relationships, build those memories. Make sure that you've created an environment where the kids are excited to return to the next day. So lots of positive feedback, lots of encouragement, lots of exciting memories. Just a reminder to join my Instagram if you want to be included in our weekly conversations all about teaching things. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I do have a long list of YouTube videos that I want to film and record and get them out to you. I'm on schedule right now to do one video a week, but if you want to see something sooner, let me know. If there's also something you'd like to see, you can just leave a comment below and I will make a video about it. I do have a long list, and I do have a series coming out that I'm super excited about. The series is called Classrooms Across Alberta. I've already filmed one episode. I'm going to be editing it and posting it here soon. But I have some more videos coming out, and the series is all about showcasing your beautiful classrooms across Alberta. So if you think that you would like to be a part of that, please drop me an email or a comment below and just be in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Leave me a comment down below. I'd love to know what grade you're teaching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.